Hey, what's up everyone? This is Snackbox. Hope you all are having an amazing day. Welcome back to the channel. Guys, we have some amazing news. The event dungeon is coming back starting on the 8th January. That will be Thursday, okay? So from Thursday, we will have a new event dungeon, a new champion, which will be the boss. We're going to talk about that in a second. Also, I can show you the kit. And we will also have a few relics that will be obtainable in that event dungeon, okay? But let's start off with the new champion. And right here, you can see him, okay? So this is a new champion. Definitely looks amazing with all the details. Again, crazy job here on the design. The iron mask, absolutely stunning. I love it. Great design. As always, they do an insane job with that, right? There's nothing you can say about this, okay? All right, so let's take a look at the kit of this champion. So the name is Pontiff Augustine, okay? He will be the new champion, a new legendary Void champion, support type from the Knights Revenant faction. And yeah, he is the new event dungeon boss, and he looks absolutely amazing in my opinion. Also, his kit is not to be underestimated, okay? So let's go over it, and then I'm going to tell you what I think about this. So his A1, Edenic Blades, attacks one enemy, single target attack, has a 75% chance, if booked. It's a 100% chance of placing a block active skills debuff for 2 turns, steals 5% of the target's turn meter for each buff on them. So if you have 10 buffs on your champions, 50% turn meter. Kind of crazy, right? Because that means he can overlap his turns, right? Let's say he A1s one of your champions, you have like 5, 6, 7 buffs. He gets a lot of turn meter and takes a turn quicker. Most of the time you can't slow those bosses down, right? No decreased speed, no turn meter control. This is already kind of annoying. Now, his A2, Shackle the Unjust. 5 turn cooldown, can be booked down to a 2 turn cooldown. Removes all buffs from all enemies. Okay, so buff strip. Has a 100% chance, if booked, of placing a 100% ensnare debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. In case you don't know what ensnare is, ensnare kind of reduces the turn meter fills on your champions. It makes them slower, basically. This debuff will ignore any block debuffs, buffs on enemies under 3 or more buffs. Okay, so if you have 3 or more buffs, you cannot block the ensnare debuff. Also decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 25%. If an enemy is under 3 or more buffs, will decrease the turn meter by 40% instead. This is, again, so he's all about like stealing your turn meter, decreasing your turn meter, stripping your buffs, making, slow you down, and he's speeding himself up. Kind of crazy if you ask me. Now his A3, Ethereal Benediction, places a 50% increase accuracy buff for 2 turns and 1 intercept stack on all allies. Also fills the turn meters of all allies by 25%, then grants an extra turn. Okay, so he's buffing, putting intercept on everyone. They cannot be controlled, they cannot be sheep, they cannot be stunned, nothing, no fear whatsoever. And then he will take an extra turn. So most likely, I'm assuming that he will start off with this A3 on the event dungeon. Okay, he will start off with A3, increased accuracy. That means he will have an absurd amount of accuracy, all right, on the highest stages. Because with that buff, you probably are not able to resist that, okay? And then he will strip your buffs and put up the ensnare. So yeah, this will be super annoying. I think the best way to deal with this is bring protected buffs, okay? Like protective block debuffs. But then again, there's RNG involved. You only have like a 75% chance to do that. I think there's one champion from the Monster Hunters collab. I forgot his name. But I think he's always putting up protected block debuffs, and that might help here, okay? Now let's see. His passive, Allies receive 25% less damage from enemies under block damage, unkillable veil, perfect veil, or stone skin buffs. Alright, I don't know what that is about, but okay. Probably a little nerf, to block damage, unkillable comps that would like abuse that. Like, I don't know. Maybe they want to, make sure that you can't cheese it with any of these buffs. But yeah, it is what it is. Each time an enemy receives a buff, is healed, or has the turn meter filled, has a 50% chance to decrease the duration of all their buffs by 1 turn. Occurs once per skill and once per target. Wow, this is nasty. This is nasty. So he's all about control, okay? All about control. Making sure that you lose your turn meter, make sure that you can't fill up the turn meter that fast. Then he's putting up block active skills, stealing your turn meter, and then also making sure that his allies cannot be controlled. And then he has this nasty passive, which decreases the buff duration of all of the champions every time the turn meter is filled, every time you heal, every time you buff. This sounds as annoying as it gets. This might be worse than Queen of Hearts was. Now, if there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one will activate. This skill will not activate on duplicate copies of this champion and so on. And he has an all battle speed aura. So yeah, I think this will be nasty. This is a nasty champion. In general, I think this is a pretty good champion. I think this is a pretty solid support champion. Definitely interesting with the increased accuracy, intercept, stack, and then extra turn. Also, turn meter fill at the same time. So he can be a speed booster with a speed aura, right? And then remove buffs. And he's kind of like, I think he's one of the first champions with Ensnare, to be honest. So, yeah. Interesting champion. I can't wait to see how he performs, for people once they pull him. All right, so let's see. Here are the event dungeon mechanics, okay? So we will have him as a boss, okay? And this will be a time-limited event starting from January the 8th until March the 4th. So, like 2 months, okay? 2 months of time. It features 30 stages, okay, on the normal difficulty, with the difficulty rising with each stage. So, as we know, right, there will be no waves, only a boss battle. But beware, as this boss won't be alone, but joined by mighty warriors unique for each stage of the dungeon. So again, same thing like last time, but here's a new part about this. This time, the event dungeon will get +5 new challenge stages, stages 31 to 35. These challenge stages won't require energy and won't provide the typical loot. Instead, their completion will bring you one-time rewards like relic materials, basalt, and gemstones. Kind of interesting, right? I'm wondering what you have to use, how many times you can do that. Can you do it on a daily basis like we do Iron Twins? Will there be keys? No idea, okay? No idea how that will work, but there will be 5 new stages that you can't use energy for, okay? That is pretty interesting. And then the event dungeon will be available for players from level 6 and higher, okay? So yeah, that's about it. In case of the mechanics for this event dungeon, what we know so far. Now the big question, what will be part of the event dungeon? It will be the chronophage set. We had it last time, so now we got it back-to-back. People were hoping for a pinpoint set, but it's not the case. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's that important to farm the event dungeon, but it's good to have a decent set of the chronophage set. Yeah, it's good to have one solid 4-piece set, that works, or like at least accessories for each faction, and then 2 couple of solid pieces. It's not bad to have a set. Let's say it like this: for some siege situations and some champions like Donnie, for example, that set works really well if you want to prevent cooldown increases, lockouts. Then this becomes quite handy, but it's a very niche set. And compared to Pinpoint can be pretty much used on anybody. But yeah, that's just how it is. Anyway, that's the set that's going to be part of the event dungeon. All right, so here is an overview of the new event relics. Very, very interesting stuff. We have 8 new event relics in total. And besides souls, relics are kind of the most impactful thing that you can have on your champions. And I'm really, really interested to see how this, how this whole thing will work out with the event dungeon. How hard will it be to achieve those rewards, and how this all will work. So I don't know anything specifically about that, but we will see, okay? Now let's take a look at the rare relics first. So here we are with the Vigor Mortis rare relic, Wings of Winter, and I want to say that we don't know what stats they will have, okay? That's a little bit unfortunate because it, really plays a huge factor if a relic is good or not. Sometimes if the effect is not that crazy, then, the stats might be the most impactful part. But yeah, we don't have the stats here on this. So we have to be a little bit more patient and see what stats those relics will have. Now, Vigor Mortis group Wings of Winter. Okay, that's the new group. The wearer deals 2% more damage to enemies whose max HP is at least double the wearer's max HP. This is quite interesting. And you can get this up to how much? 8% more damage. Not bad. For a rare relic, not that bad. It will not be insanely good, but hey, 8% more damage is good. Now the next one, Sigil of the Akar. The wearer receives 2% less damage from enemies whose max HP is at least double the wearer's max. Okay, so it's pretty much the same thing, just instead of you dealing more damage, you take less damage. All right. Nothing crazy, but also not bad. Then we have the epics. And the first one is the Howling Guardians. Decreases the damage the most injured ally receives from bosses by 5%. And you can get this up to 25% if you max it out. The wearer receives that damage instead. This relic will only activate once per team. What could this be good for? I don't know. I don't think this is a good one. Maybe for PvP purposes. 25% less damage on the most injured ally from bosses. I mean, no, it doesn't work in PvP because it's only from bosses. Only once per team. Yeah, I don't know. This doesn't sound good at all. Dark Smiles Toast. Whenever the wearer's... Does it really say toast? Whenever the wearer's turn meter is filled by a skill, also heals the wearer by 3%. And this can go up to 6, 8, 10. So whenever the wearer's turn meter is filled by a skill, also heals the wearer by 10% of their max HP. Okay, interesting. Maybe good for like soloing stuff. 10% of their max HP if you self-boost somehow. That is kind of interesting, but also nothing crazy in my opinion. All right, let's move on to the legendary ones. Thunderbolt Spear. The wearer deals 10% more damage, and this can go up to 20, 30, 40% to enemies under shield buffs. Huh. Maybe good for like, against boatster teams, but yeah, I don't know. 40% is a lot, but other than PvP, I don't see a spot where this would be useful. So for now, I don't know. I'm not impressed. Let's say it like this. The next one, Oculus Custodian. What a weird name. Removes all debuffs from the wearer whenever they lose 70% or more HP. You can get this down to 60, 50, 40, 30. So if it's maxed, whenever they lose 30% or more HP from damage by an enemy in a single turn, he will remove all the debuffs. Alright, so it's like a cleansing relic, but only if you lose 30% or more damage, if it's maxed. Yeah. Interesting. I'm always thinking about PvP situations. Would I trade this for a wand? That's like kind of the thing that I'm that I'm wondering, but it doesn't really convince me. Maybe I'm missing here something, but for now it doesn't really, you know, it doesn't really convince me that it's good. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, here are the mythicals, okay? Here's the juicy part. I hope so. The first one is the diabolical dice, okay, for all the dice games. Wera has a 50% chance of increasing a random skills cooldown. 50% chance can go up to 100% chance if maxed. So if it's maxed, you have a 100% chance of increasing a random skills cooldown by 2 turns before attacking a single target. Occurs once per turn, and the wearer also deals 3% more damage for each turn of cooldown remaining on all enemy skills. I mean, it's a lockout relic, but only single target. And then you put the... That is a weird one. You put the skills on cooldown. Maybe you have like a 3 and the 4 turn cooldown, right? Like 7 times 3, that's like 21% more damage. I mean, not quite sure about this one. I don't know. Not quite sure about this one. Maybe if you put this on a predator, right? If he if he counterattacks, if this relic procs on this A1, that sounds kind of nasty, but I don't think it would. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, I don't know who I would use this on as of now. Maybe you guys, if you think any of these relics are good for any of the for any champions, let me know in the comments below. I'm not quite sure if, for now what I'm reading is not really impressing me at all. Now, the Tower Helm. The wearer receives a 25% fortify buff, okay, for 2 turns at the start of each round. Ignore defense effects used against the wearer are 10% less effective when the wearer's HP is less than 50%. Okay. And this def ignore reduction can go up to 20, 30, 40, 50%. Wow. This is definitely an insane relic for like go second teams if you want to build a super strong tanky reviver. That's where this could be awesome. But again, we don't know what the stats are for these relics, so it's so hard to judge them only by the effects, right? It could be that the stats are something like, speed, and then if the main stat is speed, the whole relic becomes much more valuable, or resistance, or something else. I don't know. It just depends on what stats those relics have. But I think that the Tower Helm seems like the better one, even though the Diabolical Dice also sounds fun, right? Sounds fun. But yeah, I don't know who I would use these things on. The Tower Helm, I can see this relic being used on like tanky revivers, right? But then again, it also depends on the stats. That's just how it is. So yeah, guys. Man, pretty interesting stuff. Pretty interesting stuff. We get a new event dungeon. Once again, this is the new champion. This will also be the event boss, Pontiff Augustine. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I don't have much more to say. Just if you want to farm this event dungeon, I would definitely, advise you to do so. Get a good chronophage set, at least one. It's nice to have. Also, the accessories by themselves are nice extra stats. It's a good thing to have. And I think, everybody should have one set. Also, the relics, are time limited. The event dungeon will be open for 2 months. So, there's that FOMO factor. But yeah, it is what it is. So, I don't know how we're going to get those relics. I mean, by beating those stages, but can we do it every day on a daily basis, or do we only have to beat them once? I assume it's like a one-time thing, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's also something like keys, daily keys that you can use like we have on the Iron Twins. But yeah, we will see. We gotta wait and see how this all works out. And yeah, until then, we gotta stay patient. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed, please hit the like button. It really goes a long way. Also, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more raid content. The YouTube algorithm's gonna suggest you a video that you might like right here, and see you in the next one.